Hello everyone and welcome back to FreezeMe. This time we are heading to Giant Bits Islands to get the last green coins, or so you would think, but there are actually a few more. We'll worry about that later. Here we are, and the first green coin is one of my favorites. It's also right near the start. This guy is bird watching, but he can't seem to get a good picture of the birds. The solution to this issue is just to wait until one of them lands. I mean, if your camera's so shitty that you can't take a picture of moving birds, that's pretty bad, but if it is that shitty, just wait. I feel like he could have easily solved this issue himself, but maybe the people, or rather the pigs, are supposed to be kinda ditzy. Maybe that's the case. There's another green coin right under the catapult. Good luck seeing this one. I think the only way you really could find it is if you had the camera pointed down constantly. There is one last green coin on the central island, or rather right next to the central island. But after that we're done here until it's time to collect the salamanders. This one isn't all that bad. I mean, yeah, it's in a weird spot, but at least it's in a weird spot you would reasonably think to look. After this pig with the sweet afro gets done lecturing us on football, we're actually going to kick the football through the hole. And this, for some reason, impresses him. And then he asks where we're from, which makes me think he's a little bit obsessed with nationality. So you're saying I can't be good at football because I'm American, is that it? And this is where the developer remembered that in Mario Sunshine you had to throw fruits into baskets sometimes to get coins. So this guy needs 2 red apples and 1 green apple. Unfortunately, I completely forget where the green apples spawn from. So I kinda spend a minute or so freaking out trying to find the green apple tree and hitting the red apple trees over and over. Also, do apples fall out of these kinds of trees? The physics for these apples can be a little bit unruly, but it's not nearly as unruly as another similar coin we're going to have to get later. Anyway, if you're smart enough to kick the right tree, this one's pretty easy. You can even jump into the basket. I don't mind helping a lazy guy out sometimes. And there's still another coin here, believe it or not. This is a small place, but it's got at least 4 coins in it. This one you might have seen back when we were here the first time. We need to solve this little math puzzle again, and we're gonna hop on those bouncy platforms, which have a green coin floating over them. I deliberately missed this one last time, and I want some praise for that. It takes real skill to miss a green coin on purpose, except it really didn't. This one's a little crazy, and if you don't jump at just the right angle, you'll end up in the sand. The next one is a little bit less crazy, but it's still dangerous. It's on a tiny, isolated, circular platform. And again, if we miss, we'll fall in the sand and have to restart. Of course, we still keep the green coins we collected, so it's really more of a minor annoyance than anything. I guess it could also be hard to spot this platform, though. Anyway, it's time for the last green coin on the desert planet, I think. We have to jump on all 3 of these enemies without touching the ground. This isn't so hard because they move pretty close together. Our next stop is the ice planet, but before we leave, I want to stop and see a special cameo. For this next one, we just bash ice with our head. There was really no way to know we were supposed to do that, but I suppose if you just try all of your abilities on it, you'll figure it out eventually. It's not like you have a lot. Oh no, this poor guy lost his marbles. So do you remember that that thing we just did where we collected fruits and threw them in the basket. But this time with marbles, and that makes it way harder because of the physics involved. There's ice everywhere. The marbles thankfully are not difficult to find. All 3 of them are very near where we found the guy who lost his marbles. The problem is getting them into the basket. They'll often bounce out of the basket and back onto the ice where you have to really struggle. It's also a struggle to get off of the ice, as you're seeing. So I'm gonna cut to when I actually get all of them in there. This was before I discovered that you could actually jump into the basket to make the whole thing a lot easier. And that's the last time we're going to have to throw 3 things into a basket, but we're later going to have to lure 3 things into a basket. To be fair, that's not even remotely similar. And now here is the hardest green coin to get in the entire game. This guy is training for the Pig Olympics, which is terrible. It's not even a pun, it's just Olympics with the word pig in front of it. But we need to make the best use of our sliding ability that we will ever have to. We need to slide through all of these flags without stopping. The most important thing to remember when you're trying to steer the sliding is that if you pull back, you don't stop, you just slow down. And sometimes slowing down is really important, especially in something like this. You can also tilt the control stick forward to speed up, and it's a little bit weird that they added these nuances when you only do this like twice. But figuring out those controls were even a thing definitely made this a lot easier. And then our friend here tells us that he'll practice to get as good as we are, but he just sits here the whole time. Maybe he's practicing with his mind. It would be neat if this guy with the ice on his head said something interesting, but he just complains about being cold. Maybe if you weren't wearing a helmet made of ice, that wouldn't be a problem. I guess it's supposed to be a hint to use this catapult. If we hit all 3 rings of coins, then we get a green coin out of it, similar to, you know, something we've already seen in Mario 64. I missed the first time, but the second time I nail it. You do have to aim the catapult in a pretty precise spot to get it right. But it's not like you can't retry as many times as you want. There's another catapult right here. For this next one, Pickleton gives us a helpful sign telling us to look up. Now, pretending we didn't already see this thing, we can look up at it, and it'll show us a pattern we need to complete in order to spawn the next green coin. It's not exactly hard to complete the pattern because there's not a lot to memorize. I mean, the jump is a little big, but we've already been through Fat the Cat's den, so, it's nothing overwhelming. And now it's time for us to go get the last green coin of the level, and one would normally assume the last green coin of the game, but this would be incorrect. Hey look, it's Snorkel Pig. I guess he's back and he has more pet fish, this time 3 of them. We need to lure all 3 fish into the cage, and this isn't actually a challenge. As soon as we get near the fish, they follow us automatically. It's a little bit time consuming because the underwater controls are not fantastic, which again I assume is on purpose, but either way this is the least challenging challenge. It's not even all that difficult to spot the fish unless you're nearsighted and you forgot to put your glasses on before recording. But even with that handicap, I still think it's pretty easy. Alright, with that done, that's all green coins for the first 3 worlds. Like I said, there are a few others, but we'll get to that when we get to that. I suppose there's more than a few others depending on how you look at it, but again, we'll get to that later. The more important thing to worry about is why does everyone in this universe suck so hard at taking care of their pets? All that's left to do now on this level is find the salamanders, mercifully of which there are only 2. One of them is again inside these cubes, where they seem to be located fairly frequently. It seems weird that there's not a separate salamander for each planet, and one of the salamanders is even on the main island, which is the one you spend the least time on. But after we nab this guy, we've officially 100%ed the level aside from the red coins, so what do you say to yet another montage? It doesn't really matter how you feel about it because you're getting one anyway. And after this, we'll head back to Fat the Cat's den. Or so you would think.